What is up, my retro crew? Today I'm so excited because last year you guys saw that I did a few collabs. I'm doing another one. This is the first one of 2020, and if you guys get a chance, man, this guy has amazing Sega content. He's a huge Sega fanboy. His name is the QA Ninja Retro Dude. You guys check him out, link down in the description below. He's gonna be in my video. Oh man, we did it. We're doing today a top 10 Sega games. And as always, my guests are gonna be first. But without further ado, we're gonna jump right into it. So, right now, the QA Ninja's coming on. I'm not starting first, but he's my special guest. Take it away, QA Ninja.
Hi everyone, I'm the QA Ninja. Thank you all for having me on board. When Retro Styles had approached me about doing my top 10 Sega games, I was so excited to do this. I always grew up as a big Sega fan since 1991 when I opened up my first Sonic game. Sega Genesis was my very first ever console. Since then I have been a big supporter, even though they kind of fell off the console scene. I still have been very big in supporting them, and I always believed in, yes, Sonic over Mario, guys, I know. But I always have so much fun, so many childhood memories growing up. Having a Sega Saturn as well. I did have a Dreamcast, and I had a Game Gear. Even to this day I have a Sega Nomad. So I've always been a big fan of their games. I always felt like they were so innovative. They were always trailblazers for other consoles and other systems to follow suit. So they've done a lot of fun things over the years, and I'm so excited to go over my personal top 10, which was not an easy task by no means, but it was something I would love to do and put together. And again, I really thank Retro Styles for having me on his channel. Super excited about this collaboration. It's my first ever, and let's get right into it. Starting off my top 10 is a game that brings as much current fun as it does memories. That soundtrack, producer, composer Kobayashi put together one of the most beautiful scores, and along with captivating gameplay, created a perfect marriage. Panzer Dragoon was a game I always wish Sega would have continued on to the Dreamcast, but this game and the series will forever be part of my top collection and my heart. Outrun the arcade is a real classic. And spoiler alert, folks, at 1986, it's the oldest game on my list. But the color animations, fun 2D sprites play well to this very day. Its arcade quality influences other games later on, and I can still find myself enjoying this given its 30-year age. Besides, who doesn't want to race around an iconic Ferrari Testarossa? Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is still the most amazing and complete 2D fighter I've ever seen. The best version is the arcade Sega Naomi version, mixing 2D sprites with 3D backgrounds. The visuals are so lush and fluid, and the character animations are fun and really something to be seen. I find gameplay and amount of characters the absolute cherry on the ice cream sundae, and this fighter stands the test of time. And of course, Mortal Kombat, the game that single-handedly called for mature ratings, setting the console industry ablaze. This was a shining example of when Sega's bold moves paid off, outselling the SNES version by plenty and further cementing Sega as the leader in the console market in the very early 90s. With plenty of Easter eggs, MK set the tone for what would become a very successful franchise for years to come. At one point in the 90s, to get an arcade perfect racer, you had to head to, well, the arcades. You had to bum quarters from your folks and hope the lines weren't too long. But thanks to Saturn, Beautiful racers like Sega Rally were brought home, and my goodness was it a great game. Not to be considered a simulator, it is more laid back fun for the living room, and the graphics, in my opinion, were some of the best using the Sega M2 engine. Starting up my top 5, Aladdin. Aladdin is an amazing game for its time and has aged very well given its fluid Disney animations. It has been said to serve as one of the main reasons that Rare came up with the Donkey Kong Country series for Super Nintendo. Using the same engine as the legendary Earthworm Jim, the graphics are lush, the animations are smooth, and really pushed the Sega Genesis hardware, making no mistake that this aging console still had something to prove. My top 10 Sega list just wouldn't be complete without one of Dreamcast's best looking fighters, Soul Calibur. The sequel to Namco's Soul Blade, this 3D fighter really pushed the more advanced hardware limits of the Dreamcast. A fine arcade port, the graphics were something to behold, and in my opinion not only was it the best 3D fighter on Dreamcast, but it's also the most colorful and fun. The backgrounds are vibrant, the symphony music really balances out the butt whooping you're giving your opponents. It's a must-have in my collection. Next on my list is Streets of Rage 2. Streets of Rage was an amazingly fun series. Working as an answer to Nintendo's Final Fight series, it redefined beat-em-ups for its time. With Streets of Rage 2 often regarded as the best of the trilogy, the soundtrack was a memorable one. The backgrounds and characters were colorful and made for a recipe of gaming goodness. Like Double Dragon meets, I always recommend this one. Virtua Fighter 2. When talking fighting games for the Saturn, rarely 3D games get the credit they deserve. 2D games like X-Men vs Street Fighter always take the cake, but Virtua Fighter 2's beautiful colors and fluid animations still hold well today. While Tekken went on to spawn more games and successes, Virtua Fighter series laid the groundwork for many 3D fighters, and in this one in particular will always hold a special place in my gaming heart. Sonic 2, my favorite Sega game of all time. It should come as no surprise that this game had a huge and profound impact on the success of Sega in the early 90s. The series is credited to helping propel Sega over Nintendo briefly, and I could see why. The colors, the animations, gameplay, replay value, I must have beaten this game 100 times. Every time I play it, I'm taken back to my living room floor in my childhood home, Christmas of 1992. No other game does this for me. Alright, I want to thank Retro Styles so much for having me on his channel. He's got an awesome channel. Please make sure to support. I have a retro gaming channel, so I like to do a lot of retro gaming, throw a little tutorial here and there for you, just to kind of show a little bit of my childhood and show a little bit of my passion. But once again, thank you so much for having me on board, and I hope you enjoyed my top 10.
Dude, QA, I loved your top 10 list. You and I share some of the similar games, but you just opened it up to a whole new level. So QA, thank you for being on my channel. Now it's my turn to drop those top 10. Okay, so right here provided for you, I have a list like always. Okay, my number 10, just like QA did, I'm going from 10 to 1. Number 10, Street Fighter. Street Fighter always offers that classic beat 'em up fighting style games where you're like Ken Haruka and Ryu. Very, very reminiscent of the 90s where you had Blanca, you had Dhalsim, you had those characters that were just fighting awesome. And I do believe, and I'm pretty sure I'm 100% correct, that series is still strong today. Earthworm Jim. You can never go wrong with Earthworm Jim. He's like a little earthworm in a big suit. You're going down and you're defeating those cow levels. Well, they're not really cow levels, but you have to hit the fridge to go to the cow levels, and it just provides these crazy crow shooting action. It's just very, very awesome. Next one, I have never seen a game like that since. I want to see a sequel. Let's see what happens. Comic Zone, where you're a guy, you get thrown into a comic, you go in there, you're going into each strip, defeating each enemy. It's just amazing how the gameplay allows you to swing, to jump, to pick the direction. Wherever you want to go, it takes you. Comic Zone for the Sega Genesis is awesome. Alright, next one is my number 7, Vector Man. Vector Man is a game that he looks like these little green balls, but how fast the gaming action goes into it. He's just shooting and spinning, and I have never seen the Sega Genesis use their graphics to the fullest like I did in Vector Man, because he's just full of action and shooting. It's just a game that you want to play. Next one, Toe Jam and Earl. Man, you get all kinds of funky with Toe Jam and Earl. It has the cool beatboxes, the cool music. Who doesn't like that game like that? It just really gets you involved. It really gets you invested, and you get so far into it you don't even realize what you're playing. And so each level just offers a bunch of crazy funny antics in that game. Alright, you can't forget about good old Booger Man. And you can't forget about this game. This is a pick and flick adventure that I don't know why most people didn't like. They should make a sequel of this, but Interplay doesn't even exist anymore as a company. Anyway, it's a pick and flick adventure where you eat radishes, you fart, you flick your boogers. It's just a game that's just crazy. It really caught my attention as a kid, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a cool game. And some of my friends didn't really understand why. I just thought it was cool. It's a must-play game. It's called Booger Man Pick and Flick. My number 4 is a game that I don't have a particular flavor of this game that I like. I just like it. It's Super Monkey Ball. They have a bunch of different versions of it, but it's cool that you're going around in this little ball and you're a monkey. You're collecting all the bananas, you're going through the mazes, and it's just a game that just keeps you enthralled while you're playing, because you have to go through the puzzles and sometimes you fall off the side, and it just gets harder and harder through each game, and the puzzles just keep getting more amazing and more colorful. Super Monkey Ball, you gotta play it. My number 3 pick is Sonic 2. Man, when I first got introduced to the Sega, Sonic 2, I believe I was 10 years old. Sonic 2, I got to play it, and you got to play as Tails and Sonic, and you just played through. I mean, it was just crazy because I played Mario, and then I got a hold of Sonic, and I was like, where has this been? And it's just a game where you can jump through each level as a little ball. You got to defeat Dr. Robotnik and all his evil robots. It's just a game that is like no other, and it's still going strong today. Sonic the Hedgehog. Alright, I'm excited for my number 2. My number 2 is Streets of Rage. 1, 2, or 3. I don't have a favorite. They're all awesome. Man, if you want to talk about soundtracks, this game has the best soundtrack of all times. Each one of them do. It has a soundtrack that it doesn't even sound like a video game soundtrack. You just get so interested in it while you're fighting. It's not a typical beat 'em up soundtrack, so it kind of gets you into the game and you're jamming while you're beating the snot out of all those people. I just think it's awesome, and it's a great gameplay choice. Alright, you guys, without further ado, we're hitting that number 1. Number 1! And I have chosen this game because I still play it to this day. I literally will pick up this game and play it. It's Golden Axe 3. There's just something about being a panther, being that little, I call him a pickaxe gnome, or you could be the He-Man style guy. And it's cool that it's like an RPG, but it's a fighter, because you're going through, you're defeating it, you're not really growing levels, but it does let you pick your different traveling paths on where you want to go. So you have selections in that game. So you can beat it one way, you can beat it another. So you're going around defeating the enemies. You get these special crazy powers that blow up on the screen. It's just a game that would still be playable today. If you notice, most of my games today were Sega Genesis titles. However, all the Sega games are cool, new or old. Again, I want to thank the QA Ninja Retro Dude for being on my channel. Man, I'm going to have you back on here again, man. It was a pleasure having you on here. You guys, peep his channel below. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you guys check him out. Alright, you guys, as always, keep it real, keep it fresh, keep it retro, be amazing, don't let nothing steal your joy. This is 2020, this is the year of perseverance. You guys, persevere, get through, break through, make it awesome, make it happen. You guys have an amazing, amazing day.